Hello, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to day 4 of our 4th International Conference on the Muslim Ummah with the theme of political authority and governance in the Muslim world. Today's session is session 5A. We will be exploring with a number of scholars from around the world. Our moderator today is Obeid Ruff. Mr. Obeid Ruff is a research fellow and editor at the Center for Islam and Global Affairs and an assistant to the rector at Istanbul University. He is an Islamic finance practitioner and has adapted an Islamic finance platform to be compliant with US accounting standards. He is also holding a doctorate degree in law, and he is an editor for our journal and publications here at CIGA. Mr. Ruff, you have the floor.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Owais, for the kind introduction. Welcome everyone to another Zoom meeting. We appreciate you joining. I've had many friends comment this last week that the content of the CIGA conference has been very blunt, very good compared to other Zoom conferences and meetings than they have attended. So those who are joining us, I think that you will find the tone and the content very refreshing, very strong. Our first presentation today is Islamism, Politics and Bangladesh, the democratic and political culture of Bangladesh, Jamaate Islami. The professors who are presenting this are two, Mr. Muhammad Nazmul Islam and Dr. Murat Önder of Ankara, Yıldırım, Beyazıt University. Let me introduce this panel. Each panel, I will introduce the presenters just before they present, and they will speak for 20 minutes, and then we will go to the next group. At the end, we will have time for questions and answers. However, please do send your questions on the chat feature. We have people watching on both Facebook and on other platforms. Send your questions and we will field those questions. Our first presenters, Dr. Nazmul Islam is a senior researcher at the Bosphorus Center for Asian Studies, Boğaziçi Asya Araştırmalar Merkezi, and Department of Political Science and Public Administration at Ankara Yıldırım Beyazıt University, which is in Ankara, Turkey. Between 2018 and 2019, Mr. Islam worked as Erasmus Research Fellow at Europa Institute, Saarland University, Germany. From 2014 to 2015, he was a former research associate at the joint project between the University of Cambridge, UK, and BRAC, which is in Bangladesh. Islam's PhD dissertation focuses on comparing foreign policy between China and India. He completed his master's and bachelor's degrees in the Department of Peace and Conflict Studies from the University of Dhaka, Bangladesh, and he completed a second master's from the Department of European and International Law at the Faculty of Law and Economics, European Institute, Saarland University, Germany. Between 2015 and 2018 and 2019 and 2020, Islam is an author of 3 chapters in a book, Global Encyclopedia of Public Administration, Public Policy, and Governance. 1 chapter in a forthcoming book on the Routledge Handbook of Poverty in the Global South. His publications on various subjects have appeared in many journals. Islam has 1 book and more than 30 conference proceedings, including in the University of Toronto, Canada, Oxford University, UK, Virginia University, and King College London, UK. His major areas of interest includes politics, foreign policy, and administration of the South and West Asia, especially the policy of China and India towards South and West Asia. Our other professor joining us for this first presentation, Murat Önder, is a professor with School of Political Sciences, also at Ankara Yıldırım, Beyazıt University, Turkey. He received his PhD in Public Administration and Policy from Florida State University, USA. His research interests are in the topics of comparative public administration, strategic management, performance, NGOs, policy analysis, governance, and artificial intelligence. As you can see, our presenters have a lot of academic experience and research in this field. Please give your full attention and send your questions. With that, Dr. Önder and Dr. Islam, the floor is yours. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Dr. Obeid. Can I share the screen?
Yes, we'll arrange.
Dr. Obeid, thanks for introducing us. Today, Dr. Nazmul Islam will gonna present today because I will gonna speak in the other presentation. So he's the one taking care of. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for Istanbul Sabahattin Jam University, especially CIGA, to arrange this prestigious conference. And I think it's the fourth Ummah conference, as I followed from the 4 conferences since it started. And it was really great. I mean, like to talk on issues like which is really emerging and also very practical in Muslim countries. And the topic actually we are going to talk here with Professor Dr. Önder. It's about Islam politics and Bangladesh. Actually, the correlations and what actually co-founded between Islam and the political culture in Bangladesh. And especially in that case, we actually seeing there exist a political Islam or like Islam-based political party named Jamaate Islami, or also called the Bangladesh Jamaate Islami. We'll see actually what kind of democratic culture they are practicing in Bangladesh. The presentation we actually organized in 3 major areas, especially if you look here, we will look upon that what's the democratic and political culture of Bangladesh since the prehistorical and also when Bangladesh established since 1971. And the second point we'll look like, okay, we see the Islam and political background of Bangladesh or Bengal land, and then look on the how it has practiced now through the case study like Bangladesh Jamaate Islami. And then we will look finally the controversy and also the current scenario, how it has been showed up, the Bangladesh Jamaate Islami. If I'm not wrong, I just want to ask the moderator, is my screen is seen by everyone? Because I was seeing that it's not actually showing. I don't know, like, is everyone seeing my slides? Dr. Ruff.
Yeah, Omar, are you working on showing the slides?
No, the reason you need to open slide first, then share, Nazım.
I already shared it actually. I don't
know. But you need to open it up first. You open the PowerPoint.
We see your screen and the folders that you have, but we don't see that you've opened your PowerPoint.
We will discuss like actually what kind of relations and contextual framework between the Islam and political parties and democratic culture in Bangladesh. And in that case, we will see the Bangladesh Jamaate Islamist democratic and political culture. And to discuss that discussion, we will look at 3 points like historical development and challenges of political culture in Bangladesh, and also political and democratic culture of Bangladesh Jamaate Islami, to look on the real and exist political culture of Bangladesh, and finally we'll see the the challenges, actually the challenges faced by Jamaate Islami in Bangladesh to practice their political rights and also democratic culture. If we don't know that the Bangladesh, it actually got independence in 1971. So most of our discussion, it will look like from 1971 to current now, and how the political movement has flourished in Bangladesh, and what kind of relations they have to this flourish of political parties, and also how it has relations to flourish the Islam-based political party like Jamaate Islami. And the thing, you know, in 1971, there was some kind of controversial issues which actually have engulfed with some political parties in Bangladesh, and it has existed till now. And this was the party like Jamaate Islami. They were the one of the party which has controversy to that issue, like war crime or collaborating with Pakistan to get independence, and also some sort of issues that has still faced this party, whether before going to actually see the democratic movement or like a democratic culture practiced by this party. If you look actually the current position, actually Jamaate Islami is a huge, and is really the one of the third popular political party in Bangladesh, though there are a lot of controversies and also debated on this party. And as far I have the internal report from the Jamaate Islami since 2015, it has actually members, and it called actually they have some kind of system, I mean hierarchy system, like the top and the middle and lower level. They called in like Arabic way like rukans, and also the simple, I mean general members. So it showed like the 40,000, they have rukons, I mean like they are the top members of that party, and also like they have a really good number of female members, so who are involved with this political party, and also they are supporter. According to their internal report, it shows like more than 15 million Bangladeshi people have involved with this party. And this party's constitution, if we look at the party members and the constitution, it has really facing the huge operation in terms of political rights, and in terms of political exercise in Bangladesh, like the report by one of the human rights organizations shows like that more than 35,000 members of this party now I mean in a prison, and also like this report shows like more than 750,000 its members are by any means they are oppressed. And also the one of the example we can see like the last 7 years ago in 2013, there was in one day 170 people died because of their one of the leader, what they said like it's a spiritual leader for his this trial. That's what I said, the work and trial. And there were 170 people died because they protested and came to the street against the high court rule, what they said about the spiritual leader. His name is Delaware Zahid. So this is actually the backup, like the situation of the Jamaate Islami. And now look actually to discuss the more inside the Jamaate Islam, we made see like how the political history and history of Islamization of Bengal land and the political Islam in Bangladesh. These things we shape actually in four characteristics, like how the Islam came in the land of Bangladesh, and also what kind of policy, like whether when Bangladesh established, like whether it is a socialism and how it moved to the new liberalism political system. And then look at this, how the democratic culture practiced since 1990s in Bangladesh. And then we will see that how the Islam is politically is evolving with the political parties in Bangladesh and what kind of way it has been practiced in the government system. And then we will understand actually how this ideology-based or Islam-based political party have exist in Bangladesh. If you look at the Islam and the history actually in the land of Bangladesh, we have to talk from the since the 7th century when one of the Arab leader, Arab general is called Muhammad bin Qasim. He came to Bengal and it called actually the whole Indian subcontinent through the Sindh, and this was the actually first time there's literature shows like how Islam came to the land of Bangladesh and how it started, though it was not actually that much level of existence till it came in 7th century. The real face and the real way of religion plus political Islam, it came actually through the Turkish general Muhammad bin Iqtar Khilji since 13th century, because it was the actual first establishment. That's what the Bengal land and also Bangladeshi people recognized as Islam came to this land. There are also so many things like merchants or scholars or especially the businessmen who came to this land and spread out the Islam through the peoples of Bangladesh. And this was actually the main part of what we can say that's how they exist to the culture of Bengali and Bangladeshi peoples. And there are three movements which we must actually say when we are talking about this political culture and current Islam-based political parties. There are three movements that is like Faradi movement. It's one kind of movement started against the British colony in 1820. These are the actually foundation, we can say, the political Islam or Islamization of Bengal land in current Bangladesh and also in Indian subcontinent. As actually, I think I must again say it for our audience, like Bangladesh, India and Pakistan was once Indian subcontinent. So the most of the history actually is common. But in terms of Bengal and also especially the West India is Kolkata, and it's also the Bengal and also current Bangladesh, they have a very similar history. So there was a second movement. It started by Mir Nisar Ali Tipu Mir in through Bashir Kella. So it's also against the British. I mean, it's a second movement that was called the establishment of political Islam in Bangladesh. And then the last one we can say the establishment of political Islam through the Deoband ulama. It's actually from India, and they have a very good influence and very great influence in Bangladesh. And through their ulamas, they also fight against the British colony and for preservance of Ottoman Empire, and that's called actually the Caliphate movement. And it was another dimension of political Islam in Bangladesh. So we have, when we are trying to understand the political Islam or Islam-based political parties, the most important thing from history, we have to understand these three movements, how it came, and how these three political movements against British Empire or British colony in Indian subcontinent establishes the political legitimacy and political exercise of movement through the land of Bangladesh. And then we'll go up because the issue is strictly on Bangladesh, and political parties also exist in Bangladesh. So we'll look at what happened after independence and how the political party exercised when they got independence from Pakistan. I will not talk that much the issues actually, how they got independence or like the India-Pakistan or Bangladesh-Pakistan issues. But yeah, to understand as the current the Jamaate Islamist political culture, we must actually discuss the political parties and their democratic culture, how it has practiced. If we look actually when the Bangladesh got independence in 1971, according to our constitution, according to the constitution of Bangladesh, it shows like there were 4 fundamental principles like nationalism, democracy, secularism, and socialism are the fundamental principles to make a state policy, or even also in terms of to look to the like any kind of political parties principle and their thoughts. We know this our first father of the nation and the founder of the Bangladesh, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, he actually makes the 4th amendment. It was also essentially important because through that amendment, those parties, like who have a link with the religion or ideology-based Islamic party, he closed down those party and make a new system through the constitutions. His ruled up actually like it was not sustained that much. Like 5 years later, there was a new rule came by the came from the military, and he then established his political party through the democratic way. In from 1975 to 1801, it was also exercised the political culture and also gave a freedom to the political Islamic parties to exercise their politics and also democratic rights in Bangladesh. So these are the really very fundamental and very founding things that we have to understand, like how the political Islam came and existed in Bangladesh. And the real democracy, that's what scholars and also related to Bangladesh history argued, like from 1990, the actual democratic culture has established in Bangladesh. Because since then, there were till now, in to many extent, or scholars argue like still that Bangladesh has practiced democracy, and we will look at even also like how this democracy has a correlations with Islam, and especially how it has shaped and sharpened the political Islam in the current scenario of Bangladesh. Because if we look after the 8th amendment of Bangladesh, there was some constitutional way we look like how democracy and Islam has correlated in Bangladesh. Like the Bangladeshi constitution is started through the Arabic or Quran's verses like Bismillah Rahman Rahim, or also the depend on Allah, and also some symbolic things which actually measures the culture of Muslim or Islam. And that is actually the real things which we have to firstly understand the political culture and political Islam's or Islam-based political parties, ideological, and also the way they got their existence through this kind of way, actually, because the Bangladesh it exercised their cultural things which predominantly related to Muslim, and that got actually positive things for the Islam-based political parties. And then the main important things, that's what we are talking, that's the how this way we talk about the political culture, democratic movement, democratic history in Bangladesh, and also politics, Islamization of Bengal and Bangladesh. And now we will see that this one example of Islam-based political party or ideological-based political party that's called Jamaate Islami, how they are working in Bangladesh. This is true. Like Jamaate Islami is one of the oldest party, even also the in terms of Indian subcontinent history, or fight against British, or creation of Pakistan, or the issue with India, the issue with the Bangladesh liberation. They have a lot of history actually since 1941. Though we will actually focus on the after creation of Bangladesh, how they got legitimacy, how it has continuing their issues in Bangladesh. We look actually the Jamaate Islami's little bit history, and also like Jamaate Islami's political culture, and how it has worked in the environment of current secular system of Bangladesh, and also the role of political and democratic participation of Jamaate Islami in Bangladesh. As I already talked about the Jamaate Islami's and establishment since 1941 until now, it has a long history. I mean, like established by the one of the in that time Indian subcontinent, one of the greatest Islamic scholar, Maulana Maududi, and then it moved to actually spread out in 3 countries like in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, and also India. Or if we look at even also in 3 countries, political background, especially in India, they are working as like a social-based movement. Though in Pakistan and Bangladesh, it's working like a pure political party. Even also in terms of success, the Bangladesh Jamaate Islami, it has much more success than rather than the Pakistan or India. We look actually this how then this party it has a very good and lucrative success, and now it has so many controversies faced in Bangladesh. As it's very clear, actually, the Jamaate Islami their main ideology actually to establish political parties and a state which will predominantly focused on the Islam or Islam-based, or Sharia-based governance, to run the country and to run itself their political parties based on the Islamic law, Islamic system, and the things like actually when we are reading or the literature related to political Islam or post-Islam, democratic Muslims, or those kind of way, actually the most of the Western and non-Western scholars argued about the political Islamic parties. This is actually the main characteristics you can say are like they are exercising in Bangladesh since the independence. Even also if we look the democratic participation of Jamaate Islami in Bangladesh is quite really ups and down, and good position in terms of their seats owning. Though actually it says that in Bangladeshi scholars like the issue of Jamaate Islami, they have a much more supporters like what they are gaining through the parliament votes or elections. Though since we saw that the Jamaate Islami is now run in terms of their controversies and their involvement in the time of war crimes and their role in the time of creation of Bangladesh, they are facing the huge problem now in Bangladesh. Though it's still, as we saw that this table, it's very clear, like since 1986 to 2008, there was a good participation of Jamaat Islami, and they gained especially in 1991 18 seats in the parliamentary elections, and also in 2001 they got 70 parliamentary seats. So it looks, even also inside it, we looked as they also got like 3 or 2 seats. I mean, they have actually, in one hand, in our election process, they have one hand in a very up level or also lower level, and also even the political culture and also voting system. Till the 2008, it has been argued hugely in academia and also political environment of Bangladesh that they have a much more supporters what they are gaining actually through their parliamentary elections. And also we already saw that in our first discussion, like how many, more than 15 million peoples actually supporting this party according to their internal report, and it has actually registered their supporters. And beside this registered supporter, they have also different supporters. Though we will see actually since 2008 to now, there are a lot of things raised actually related to Jamaat Islami, related to their political rights in Bangladesh, and also they lost their legitimacy. They faced so many problems, and the issue actually raised through the current government, secular government led by Sheikh Hasina, who is also the daughter of the founder of the Bangladesh Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and predominantly they are also secular party. But as we saw some discussion like in Bangladesh, in Bangladesh political culture, actually, it's really hard to acknowledge the way secularism actually presented in internationally, because even also the Awami League, the current political party, they say that they are secular system, but in so many indicators they have a many relations with the political Islam, or we can say the conservative way, which is related to the Islam or Muslims. So what recent controversy started from 2008, it was actually the current government, or they started a new arbitrary law against Jamaate Islami for their role during the 1971. And they say like that this parties has direct involvement with collaborating Pakistan and to get, to implement the establishment of Bangladesh or creation of Bangladesh. So this was actually startup that's the Bangladesh, this parties is now facing now. If we see there's the tribunal, that's what this current government established, the war crime tribunal, as what they say that the way of international war crime tribunal established in established for the former Yugoslavia and also Bosnia, or those kind of issues, they are actually say that they're mandating the and following the way actually it established in that time. So this is actually the current situation now that Jamaate Islami is facing actually through this tribunal. And till now, because as we are now talking in 2020, and this party already lost their top leaders, as nearly 5 to 6 top leaders already lost, and also so many members of this party, especially the old members, they are now in the prison because of this involvement and their role during the 1971 war crime, 1971 the liberation war against Pakistan. So this is actually interesting. Actually, if we look at any literature, even also like in internationally, whatever is academia, media, or in any way analysts or experts talk about this war crime, they found out some loopholes and also some kind of dimensional fact, like how the current government actually organizing this. And so most of them actually talking that this is the actual issue to divergence the party of opposition, whatever is this Islamic political party, or also some other political establishment for the social way. For example, there was the social movement like Beyazıt Islam, or also opposition party like Bangladesh Nationalist Party. So it actually has an impact on all kinds of parties in Bangladesh. So there is actually focus on the one parties, but this has actually multi-dimensional impact on in Bangladesh. Again, the issue of since 2011 to till now is very clear. They lost their leaders, they lost their even if you look to the legal system, the Jamaate Islami, they already prohibited to participate in any kind of election in Bangladesh, because through the High Court of Bangladesh, Division of Bangladesh, it prohibited their registration to participate in Bangladesh. It was happening in August 2013. So this was actually final step back for this party to involvement in any kind of democratic participation in Bangladesh. Even also if we see that the current scenario, there's this party is struggling to gain their democratic rights. But the reality of this party, the current government, they started their way of democracy to discuss development versus democracy, and that's what scholars argued, for development through the authoritarian democracy. Practicing authoritarian democracy, the current government doing the things like for the development of Bangladesh. So it has, it started through the issue of these parties, and also to listening and mesmerizing and also vanishing these parties democratic rights, and then it moved to the actually opposition party and also the other social and Islamic parties. So this is the actually current scenario of Bangladesh, and even also like it has been very clearly shown in Bangladesh, like the Islam is going to be the other actually in Bangladesh in terms of political culture. So this is a really interesting question that comes, like a country which has a predominantly political culture exists in its land since the like 7th century to the 13th century to through the movement against British Empire, and also the in general people's mentality which exists like Islamic culture, and what's the make actually the sense to make fall this situation, like what we are seeing in the like the debates on in terms of secularism. So this
Dr. Islam, let's conclude in the next 2 minutes, please.
yeah, I'm going to actually finish it. Thank you. So this is actually the way actually the fall of Jamaate Islami in Bangladesh. Now there's their democratic rights, or like their political rights in terms of like what is their participation in election, and also like the main opposition party in Bangladesh, like Bangladesh Nationalist Party, they are also ignoring their participation like in a like a election process, like since 2014 and also 2018 there was the last 2 elections, and it was hugely saw like the current exist party, they are not doing actually what we are seeing that's a political way or democratic way, and also the Jamaate Islami, they are, as they are already prohibited party to participate in a registration. I have to actually mention that they are not politically prohibited, but they are prohibited to participate in national election through the legal way by raised by the Bangladesh High Court. So through this way, actually their position is going to be actually very listening. And now we saw actually this Jamaate Islami's works actually, so rather than to move to the social works, rather than to work with political participation in Bangladesh, because as they lost their legitimacy to do their political rights and democratic rights in Bangladesh. And even also there are some issues raised through the inside the parties, and recently they have a 2 different thoughts raised, like one kind of thoughts we saw in Tunisia, like by the Rashid Al-Ghanouchi, another like what the Muslim Democrats, or like those kind of conservative way what exists in Turkey, and also like inside there was a more conservative than what predominantly following since the history. So this is actually the current situation of Bangladesh, like, and it's really still hard to predict like what will happen in future. But this is very clear, like for any political parties in Bangladesh to exercise their democratic culture is really hard, and it's really unfortunate things happen by the current government, and in academia it's very clear, like that in every indicators of democracy and political culture for any political party to exercise their democratic rights is really hard in Bangladesh. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Islam. I know Bangladesh and its geography is in a sensitive area. A lot of people in the world, not just the Muslim world, are not familiar with the political system, the parties, the controversies. This might be the first that they hear about it. We'll explore this more on the question and answer session. I already have some very good questions that I'll be asking you. Our next presentation is also written by Dr. Murat Önder. Dr. Önder, you're a busy man in Ankara. And the other presenter with this, Dr. Metin Uzun. Dr. Uzun, he's a research assistant at the Department of Political Science and Public Administration at Ankara Yıldırım Beyazıt University here in Turkey. Uzun, he received his BA degree from Hacettepe University, Political Science and Public Administration in 2018. He's continuing to do his master's degree in Public Administration, Department of Hacettepe University. His main research includes comparative public administration, information technology management, smart cities, and artificial intelligence. This one looks very interesting to me in terms of the world we live in now, this transition between governing people, including governing technology, which governs the people. It's a interesting blend of technology and politics. So Dr. Önder and Dr. Uzun, the floor is yours to talk about governance reforms here in Turkey.
Thank you very much. If you authorize me, so I can share my screen.
Yes.
All right. I hope everybody can see.
I can see it.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Dr. Obeid, thank you very much for moderating us. And I want to thank first to Nazmul Islam, my partner in the first presentation. And I also want to thank my other partner in this presentation, Metin, helping me to prepare this presentation and paper today. Governance. Today, I'm going to talk about governance in Turkey, governance reform in Turkey. But before explaining governance, maybe I need to explain a little bit theoretical development of governance so that we can talk theory, and then we will going to look at the practice or applications in Turkey, what kind of reforms we have been over. And today I will talk about governance, good governance a little bit, and then we'll talk, summarize Turkish administrative structure, and then I will going to look at the reforms in general, and then governance reforms in Turkey that basically after 1990s. Okay, you know, if we look at the conference headline, we have two main classification. First is in terms of problems, we are talking about political issues and administrative issues, especially in Muslim world. Political issues, you know, is like we have many countries still kind of authoritarian leadership, like dictatorship, and we have lots of participation issues. Some of them do not even have election system, and the democratic process is not, we do not have democratic process in some countries. Even if we have democratic elections, we need democracy, more democracy. And we experience lots of terrorism in Muslim world, unfortunately. And bureaucracy or public administration itself, it has inherently, naturally, it has many problems, even in developed countries. And we have more problems in, of course, in our nations. You know, there's a continuous change in the world. Like we need to, you know, there's many new things going on, especially in the age of computer technologies, internet communication technologies, and we are in the age of artificial intelligence. So change is very dramatic and very fast. So we have to, as a public administration and political science, political system, we have to adapt, we have to follow these changes. And there's increasing demand for new and better public service. There are lots of complaints about inefficiency of public administration, unethical application, waste of public resources, demand for better quality in public service, and more participation, of course, inside the management, not only in election through democratic process, but also in the administrative system itself. There are lots of demand for internal participation. So reforms are inevitable. You know, and we know that there are lots of continuous reform efforts in every country if you look at it. Even if you go back to all countries, we have politics. Like if you see Ottoman or Chinese and any countries, we really have reform movements throughout the history. If after this short introduction, if we come to the topic of governance, you know, we have principle like good governance principle, and I need to explain the term. Actually, UNDP defines governance as is a system of values, policies, institutions that society uses to carry out its political, economic, and social affairs in the context of relation with public, private, and voluntary sector. But if we look at short historical development of this term, we have the term government, but governance actually is in Turkish is yönetişim. In English now is for governance they use collaborative governance recently. If you look at all public administration, political science literature, but public administration itself, like a public administration, was independent variable. It means it's like a top-down approach, like in bureaucracy and or in organization theory, and that's why we see that in traditional public administration, classical neoclassical theory about organization and bureaucracy talks about like one way of administration. Participation was not main issue, but and for us to be able to understand governance today, we have to look at the focus and locus debate of public administration and political science since at the end of 19th century. Public administration at the beginning was together with political science, then with Taylor, scientific management, and some classical theoreticians, we came close to the management with the impact of positivism at the time also. At the end, like after World War II, we see that public administration start coming back to the close to the political science with new public administration, but name still new public administration. With there, we were trying to bring democratic values to public administration. That what makes public administrations at the time. But it didn't work a lot. New public management actually starting with 60s and till 70s, we know this movement like managerialism at the same time, and then we know like with privatization, lots of emphasis was on the efficiency of public administration and the system, and we know new rights and public economic enterprises all were privatized in many parts of the world. But at the time, public administration was close to the management. They were looking at the citizen like a customer because they talk about like customer-oriented approaches. But we see that this didn't explain the real public administration political science. You know, public administration, even though its organization as machine itself, it has some special characters that or natures different than private sector. So we cannot treat citizens like a customers. You know, we have some other values need to bring to the system. That's why public administration came close in 1990s, came close to the political science again, where we have like governance paradigms start being more dominant and still dominant in the literature. And public administration was independent variable affecting public, but with this philosophy, public administration was dependent variable. People, stakeholders, citizens, other public organization, private sector, they all start having influence on public administration. That was the mentality of governance. You know, when we talk about good governance, what was the main argument in good governance? They said that, you know, governance is inevitable. Some people will have to join or will join to the authority to use power and authority in public administration. This might be mafia, like in old Italy. This might be, big companies in old United States, or this might be military bureaucracy in Turkey in old times, and this might be like groups, like FETÖ groups in Turkey. They will try to use the power, but the important thing is for us to have democratic governance, to have democratic values with it. And good governance has some principle that we all know. United Nations is trying to promote it everywhere with different projects, especially in developing worlds. And we try to analyze governance reforms in Turkey by classifying reforms under the maybe 6-7 principles. So what kind of reforms we went through according to this principle. And these are the general governance principles: participation, very well-known, transparency, responsiveness, accountability, decentralization, strategic vision and planning, performance management, still was some of the main principles of good governance. I don't want to go over some of them, but Turkish public administration, you know, we have a legacy of Ottoman Empire and some other grand and other Anatolian Seljuks, and when Ottoman have some legacies of East Roman Empire that we have really strong bureaucracy. We know this civil bureaucracy and military bureaucracy was very powerful in Turkey. That's why we call tutelage service, tutelage power until 2015-16. Still, you all remember, we have coup attempt in 2016, 4 years ago, and really we have strong military and civil bureaucracy. The old way we have centralized patronal elite structure. Later we have maybe middle class, and we have coup d'etat. How many times? 3 times. Some of them is like a coup attempt we have. But in Turkish public administration, for us, first at the beginning, you know, we try to bring some Western experts to analyze our system until 50s. We have many reports about that. After 60s, Todai and some other organization made reports to restructure Turkish public administration. And you all, this process, 60s, 90s, there's some privatization, but I want to come close to the recent era after 2000s, especially this era is also well known with AK Party's, AK Party was in power, so there's lots of changes that we will gonna cover today. But most important thing that AK Party managed to, you know, to reduce the impact of military in political affairs. If you see, military is more powerful in Turkey now against outside, but military is in his own duty right now. That was big success for AK Party's government, actually, in my opinion. As I said, there's other reform movements till 2000s, but I don't want to spend more on time on that because I know we have limited time. You know, success of reforms after 2000s, especially in you know, in AK Party, we know that AK Party was single strong party in government. That was, they were very successful in passing laws, regulations. But you know, it doesn't mean that AK Party was single party and dominant and authoritarian. We shouldn't forget that Turkey, we have elections sometimes 4 or 5 years, so there's competition. There's the other political parties, you know, people have to like or satisfy with your service. So AK Party wanna, you know, do some policies that people will like and they will be happy with it, so they can get re-elected. Okay, and AK Party actually benefited from US maybe little support and European Union support to comply with European Union's rules so that they can demilitarize Turkish public administration. And also we know that dominant governance paradigm all over the world, United Nations and some European Union is really promoting governance. It means civil sector and other private public and citizen should should be part of governance process. Okay, that was, and really digital communication technologies really increased its significance. Why? Think about like coup attempt. If there was no you know, internet technologies or you know, communication technology, maybe Erdogan spoke with his phone to the people, right? Okay, here's, you need to stand up. That was the big issue, you know. If we didn't have communication technology, that's like all time. If the military of Central is important, so they could control all country quickly. That was the other issue with social media and digital technologies. And let's try to summarize the reforms in terms of good governance principle. First, we have, you know, after 1990s, maybe some other political parties, the governments also did some changes. We have some reforms in terms of political participation. Okay, one of them is, you know, is like we have strategic planning or visionary strategic planning in process. We passed law for strategic plans. Every organization
in Turkey, ministries, public organizations, municipalities have to prepare strategic plan by, doing workshop or considering related parties' complaints and demands in preparing their plans. And state planning organization now, the Minister of Development is chairing, monitoring this, of course. And we have also state council, law about state council. So people wanna participate locally. And e-government, people can have complaint and they can participate in the process. And now it was BIMER first, now we have GMER, Presidential Office Communication Center. We created, in 2010, we created Ombudsman situation. And in Turkey, we have regulatory impact analysis. It passed in 2007 to include people and to make rational analysis, impact analysis of law before passing the law. That we can count some others. But main thing, also it's emphasized a lot in Islamic Shura and participation. So not only voting, also we want to include people in the process of management. That was the issue. That's not it. You vote in every 4 years. That's not enough to understand democratic institutionalization of that given country. And I mentioned about strategic plans a little bit. It is actual strategic, making strategic plan was coming from law number 5018, public financial control and management law. It talks also performance management. It talks about strategic management. It talks about transparency in terms of this law brings many new things about financial management of country. And also with this law, we passed new law in terms of Court of Accounts. Court of Accounts start after 2011, start monitoring public organization by looking at their strategic plan, whether they are performing or not. It means, in other words, Court of Accounts start performance auditing. Before it was Court of Accounts only was auditing in terms of compliance. And you see one strategic plan and everybody. And state council, I explained in every state, you can have state council. There's law mentioning about that, municipality law 5093 after 2005. It talks about state council. People go and be member of Kent Council in Turkish. And it has youth council, women's council, neighborhood councils, and it's voluntary. Okay, there's some other related activities about state councils that promoting local people to participate in their own geographic locations. Okay, and the other things, e-government reform. E-government, there are many reforms. One thing that we have, like Turkey.com, .go, is they try to bring everything in one single door. You can go one window and you can almost enter every government or ministry's page from there. You can do many things. E-government is like use of information and communication technology in the business or business process of governments and public administration. Turkey really made very good job and fast job in promoting, and it also includes participation of people, like complaint process or some other. People can follow what they want to see with this e-government reforms. I'm not gonna get in any of them, but if you government policy, if you look at, they want to create like user-oriented, they want to cybersecurity, quality, fundamental rights and freedoms, and they try to create some international standard in e-governments to sum up. And they have some other system, they talk to each other, like some other system that I will and many people have been using, especially we were talking about e-government, we were knocking the door of e-government until 2018-19. But what happened last year? We were knocking door, but with the COVID, online or digital government broke our door, enter here now. Now we are speaking from computer, as you see, it broke our door now. And as I mentioned, Presidential Communication Center is maybe more than a million people is writing there. You know, even if you do anything minor, people go and complain Gmail. Then they have a student. In your exam, they write petition to presidential office. Here's this professor is is not is stingy in his grade. Something people can write anything. Election petition, they give feedback, they complain about people, they are doing some whistleblowings, they are giving some wrongdoings in the country. People, there are many of petition you can find, more than 1 million on that, and it started with BMER, President, Prime Minister office, but now, of course, President's office is not there. So Prime Minister office is not there, so presidential GMER took place. And this is like process you can complain online too. And the other thing, ombudsman law. We tried to pass this in 2006, but in 2012 we have ombudsman institution law. What is ombudsman is doing on behalf of Turkish Grand National Assembly? They are taking complaints, controlling executive actually. So they are trying to mediate if there is any wrongdoing. It means anything mistakes, they are really go and audit, and they correct many things in the in public administration, helping citizens a lot. And openness, transparency, responsiveness, and we passed some other laws in Turkey after 2000 about openness, transparency. And here are some laws after we did some after 1990s, or lots of changes after 2000. I can give some of them, like after 99, like law concerning trials of civil servants and other public servants, 99. And then you have 2003, law about the rights of access to information, people, the transparency. And the other thing, like law concerning the Foundation Council of Ethics for Public Service, ethical issues, and by law concerning principle ethical behavior of public servants. And the other 96 and 2002, like we have like law about prevention of money laundering, and then law in 2002 is about public procurement law. See, the for transparency, and also I mentioned about law about public financial management. In this issue, openness and transparency, I mentioned we have also have rights of information. People can write petition and they can get official document about themselves. And we also passed another law to protect privacy of people, kişisel verileri koruma kanunu. And we have information assessment board. They evaluate your demands and they give information documents you deserve. If you in the right to information around the world is there are some 89% of world population lives in the country with that policy, and only if you look at the countries have pending bills, and the countries have joined like 52 of them transparency initiative, and 73 countries have joined to open government partnership. In the world is developing, but unfortunately Muslim world is a little bit coming behind if you look at this statistic in details. And open door applications, there's projects going on in municipalities and district governorship. They are trying to leave the door open, and in terms of people come and complain and talk about their demands to the government in a local levels. And in terms of effective efficiency, we have some laws, as I mentioned, like regulatory impact analysis, regulation procedure, and financial management law about in this respect. And I don't want to get in detail, but the law in Public Financial Management and Control Act, it talks about improving administrative capacity, fiscal transparency, strategic planning, development of cooperation mechanism, public-private sector, regulatory supervisory agencies, efficient allocation of public service. And by the way, we have many regulatory agencies now after privatization. they can just regulate the market. They are not taking the the place of market. They are just regulating. We have like 12 of them. And actually in 2004, there was one draft law about public administration, about performance. It was really famous law, but at the time, the president, Cesar, I think, vetoed it. So this law didn't pass, but by the time AK Party slowly passed items in that draft. And the regulatory impact analysis, again, we were doing it, I think still in PEC, and in some reports you see that regulation, before we do regulation, we have some impact assessment, analyze about that law too. And these are summaries that what I am trying to show. And I said there's some regulatory agencies still intact, and I mentioned some of the others in terms of performance-based reforms in Turkish public administration. And local government reforms, of course, we have, especially there was administrative tutelage in Turkey. Minister of Interior Affairs has tutelage on municipalities. But we changed many laws after, especially first in 1980s. First, we have Metropolitan Municipality Law in 1984, but this law changed in 2004 again, and 2012 again to increase, to change. We had new Metropolitan Municipality areas. And for example, municipality law in Turkey, it was like 1588, I think it was done in 1930s. It was very old law when AK Party changed in 2005, the dramatic changes, and it has some principle about governance subsidiarity, participation, city council. Again, they also put in the law that municipalities in every level have to prepare strategic plans by considering related stakeholders. And also Turkey in 2000 created organization of development agencies and coordination and duty in 26 statistical regions in Turkey, so they can get local projects and demands, help people to develop locally. And as I said, special province administration and village law, they all was changed and improved a lot in terms of participation with governance principles. Many laws, as I mentioned, some of them, the efficiency, citizen orientation, accountability, participation, transparency was important in these laws. And also the other thing, civil society reform in Turkey. Strong governance can be only possible with civil society. And we, this also, like we have big earthquake in 99, it has impact, of course, passing some of improving civil society in Turkey. But we passed a law on association, and Minister of Interior Affairs is now General Directorate on Civil Society, because they are the one controlling, monitoring association, dernekleri. And also many ministries in Turkey has department heads for civil society organization. They start having some expert to promote and to strengthen civil society in Turkey. As I said, the important things in Turkey also in terms of democratization was demilitarization of process. And, we, have like, we really now do not talk about military influence in civil life in Turkey right now. If we think about in the past, maybe foreigners who listen us don't know. We used to make joke when we were university. When we wake up, if there is no military intervention or coup, we say, "Oh, there is no coup today." That was how powerful military. And in Muslim world, still we see that in many countries, in Egypt and some other countries, we see that military is really, really strong. Still, they are doing military takeover that needs to be improved, inshallah. And These are the main issues that I tried to summarize. I hope I didn't pass or didn't forget some issues. We tried to bring together many issues to talk about general governance reforms in Turkey. But we can say that, you know, we build more democratic and we also have a new system, presidential system. As you all know, there was like coordination problem. I don't want to get into new system. We are still testing. We don't know the impact and results completely yet. Hope it will serve better for democracy and participation. And we created many new things with reforms, and I hope all these reforms might be example or provide a good model for Muslim countries to improve participation and governance in the countries. To sum up, governance is inevitable. As I said, our duty is to make it democratic governance and according to our constitutions. Thank you very much for listening me.
Thank you, Dr. Önder. It's very good presentation. Would you be willing to make these slides available to viewers who request this?
Of course. If you need, we can send it.
Fantastic.
And we also have paper. We already presented
Yes.
paper. I think it will gonna published. That is in more detail over there.
Thank you very much. I saw part of this process of reform by the Turkish government on the international side. One of my law professors, Edward Morse, was selected to be the consultant on business management, transparency, and economic issues, and he was very active in assisting the Turkish government. He came to Ankara and gave me his research projects to stay busy with while he was helping Turkey. So
yeah, I also work in different, I didn't mention in my CV, but I work in United Nations, UNDP's projects about governance and some others, but you know, for a few years, of course.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your efforts, and also not thank you because it made me busier and made my life very stressful. So our next presentation is by Dr. Zahid Shahab Ahmed, who is a research fellow at Alfred Deakin Institute for Citizenship and Globalization, which is at Deakin University, Melbourne, Australia. During 2017 to 2019, he was a non-resident research fellow with University of Southern California Center on Public Diplomacy. Prior to that, he was assistant professor at Center for International Peace and Stability, National University of Sciences and Technology in Pakistan. His work focuses on political developments in groups, interstate relations in South Asia and the Middle East. He's published over 50 research papers, including a book, Regionalism and Regional Security in South Asia, published by Routledge in 2013. Dr. Ahmed will be talking about populism and authoritarianism in Pakistan. Dr. Zahid, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'll just quickly share my screen. I hope it's visible on your side.
Yes, it is.
Thanks for the very kind introduction. So basically in this presentation, I'll be trying to compare two populist leaders, and there have only been two populist leaders in Pakistan. So Zulfikar Ali Bhutto from the 1970s and the current Prime Minister Imran Khan. But before I do that, I've been inspired by the first speaker to perhaps talk about a bit of politics in Pakistan. So the benefit of being the last speaker is that I kept updating my slides. So there have been 22 prime ministers in the country since 1947. This speaks for the level of political stability in some ways. There have been 4 military authoritarian rules for nearly 30 years in Pakistan. As the speaker before me also talked about military regimes in different parts of the Muslim world. And Pakistan suffers from that. And then mainly in Pakistan, there have been two big parties until recently, Pakistan Muslim League and the Pakistan People's Party. both claim to be secular. And now Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, that is the ruling party since 2018. I'll talk about that. So military's role in politics has existed in various shapes and forms. This is something I'll also talk about during the course of this presentation. So first, what is populism? So its generic definition is that populism is a political approach that strives to appeal to ordinary people who feel that their concerns are disregarded by the established elites of the country or the society. So in a way, both Imran Khan and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, as you can see them on the screen, they both in a way used this kind of rhetoric to appeal to the masses, to change their lives overnight, big promises. One thing that is very common in terms of the studies done on populism is that the populists make very, very big promises. Another thing is that because they cannot meet many of the big promises, they make then compromises, something that affects their popularity later on. And the third aspect which has come in the literature is about how populist leaders gradually progress towards authoritarianism. This is something I'll talk about in the presentation. But first, let me, for the audience who may not know these two leaders from Pakistan that I'm talking about, there are some very interesting similarities between the two, both Western educated, in fact, from the Oxford. Very good speakers, aggressive speakers, mainly Western lifestyles. Imran Khan, of course, has changed recently in terms of his dressing and his religiosity. Anti-Westernism or anti-Americanism have been other key features of their populist discourse. And Pakistan's sovereignty and the issues of Islamophobia, for example, in the case of Imran Khan. Another key feature, which I don't think so any leader can ignore, which is the India factor. But the populist leaders have been, I think, more vocal, more aggressive in terms of their anti-India stance and the whole Muslim identity issue, which is also central to the Pakistan's very existence because it was created on the basis of the religious divide in the Indian subcontinent. And then the whole Islamic rhetoric, that how they both have used religion to a different degree and with a lot of similarities for their political gains through, for example, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's Islamic socialism and Imran Khan's Islamic welfare system and other, Islamization that has been happening in Pakistan in recent years. So in terms of other similarities, one key similarity between the two is that they is in terms of their links with the military. So Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was Pakistan's Minister of Foreign Affairs under the military regime of Ayub Khan, and later on also during another military regime of General Yahya Khan until 1977, and then he started his own political party and his basically political career. Khan, for instance, Imran Khan became a parliamentarian during the military regime of General Musharraf in 2002. And his current government is blamed for being, selected is the term used by the opposition parties, that it has been selected by the Pakistan military and not really elected as far as the elections are concerned. So I'll focus on first their populist narrative and anti-Westernism or anti-Americanism are the key features that sort of makes this comparison between the two populist leaders very interesting. What happened during Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's time something relevant to what the first speaker talked about with reference to Bangladesh, Bangladesh's creation, is that Pakistan lost this war against India and was disintegrated. And so at that point, Pakistan realized that its military alliances with the US were not fruitful at all. So the anti-Americanism was on, at a very high level, and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto in a way benefited from that. He withdrew Pakistan's membership of the Southeast Asian Treaty Organization, US-led military alliance at that time. He blamed the US for the protests against his government, for example, in the country. And he delivered a very aggressive anti-American speech in the parliament in 1977 as well. And similarly, Imran Khan's, the kind of messages he have been promoting, there's, for example, anti-imperialism, blaming other parties for being subservient to the British and now the Americans, and then anti-Americanism in Pakistan is a popular kind of vote winner as well. So he used that. He blamed other leaders for being American stooges. For example, he talked about that he would never go to the American-dominated organizations like the IMF, but in the end, he had to go there to deal with Pakistan's financial problems. Basically, in terms of the rise in his political career, I think his whole discourse on the drone strikes, American drone strikes in Pakistan, I think worked in his favor, because his party's previous win was in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa region bordering the tribal areas, where that was badly hit by the US drone strikes and the most affected as well. And those people really listened to him and voted for his party that formed a provincial government before forming the central government. In terms of anti-India, India is Pakistan's main enemy, you can call it, or the arch rival. So it's natural that many political parties have basically targeted India either one way or the other, because in terms of domestic politics, it sells as well. So Bhutto, naturally, after the 1971 war, and Pakistan's breakup. So Bhutto's populism was characterized by a heavy dose of anti-India rhetoric. So this is by one of Pakistani authors, Akhtar. He labeled Bhutto's populism as being mainly anti-India. And in the post-1971 context, Bhutto was able to sell this. So in terms of Imran Khan, so he has been blaming, other parties and their leaders, for example, Nawaz Sharif as Modi's friend. And Narendra Modi is the current Prime Minister of India. And Hindu nationalism in India and, Pakistan has been now mainly labeling the regime in India as similar to the Nazis of Germany, as can be seen in the picture on the right-hand side. And this picture has been, circulated a lot in social media in Pakistan. And you can see, Narendra Modi's face and also Adolf Hitler's face there. But at the same time, Imran Khan's, there are contradictions, which is quite natural in the case of many populist leaders. Contradiction in terms of having a very aggressive position on India, but at the same time offering peace opportunities or peace building opportunities, opened the Kartarpur corridor with India that provides an opportunity to the Sikh pilgrims from India and around the world to visit their holy site. Has been, and the government also has given an approval of constructing a Hindu temple in Islamabad as well. So all these things are happening under, Imran Khan's government. But I'll talk about how they both, in a way, very in a similar fashion, they used Islam or religious identity for their politics. So for Bhutto, when he was sort of talking about anti-Western or purporting his anti-Western rhetoric, his parallel approach was to promote pan-Islamism as a replacement to pro-Western policies. And then he effectively did that by also, for example, hosting the OIC summit in 1972 in Lahore in Pakistan, where Colonel Gaddafi of Libya, he called Pakistan the citadel of Islam in Asia. So in a way, he achieved something out of it. And he was also selling the idea of making Pakistan the first nuclear power in the world. And so, of course, that required a lot of funding, and Pakistan had to look towards the oil-rich Muslim economies. And the funding came for that, and Bhutto was able to sell this idea of Islamic bomb, in terms of Pakistan's nuclear capability. So Islamization often in Pakistan, in the case of Pakistan, is blamed on General Zia's regime, but in fact, it had started during Bhutto's era when Ahmadiyas were declared non-Muslims, and at that point. And mainly also in terms of his appeal to the masses or the common people, his popular slogan was that of Roti Kapda Aur Makan, which is providing bread, clothing, and shelter to the poor people. Of course, most of that never happened. So similarly, Imran Khan has been talking about transforming Pakistan into a model state based on the ideals of the Riyasat-e-Madina, or the first Islamic state, as a welfare state. He's been talking about Islamic revivalism, for example. But one big thing on his agenda has been the Ummah's unity. So he's been talking about mediating between Iran and Saudi Arabia. He did engage in some kind of a shuttle diplomacy. He went to Tehran, he went to Riyadh. Of course, we know that the outcomes were not as expected. And another big feature of his rhetoric has been how the West has misunderstood Islam, and how, as Muslims, we should explain it better. And his big speech at the UN General Assembly, soon after he became the Prime Minister, also talked about Islamophobia. That gave him a lot of popularity, more popularity, not just in Pakistan, but around the world, mainly because he's a good speaker as well. So in terms of educational reforms, is engaged in, for example, Arabic has become compulsory in one of the provinces in terms of school level education, and also Quran is now going to be educated in much more systematic manner. He is open in terms of turning Pakistan into welfare state. I think some of the very good initiatives are in the form of shelter homes and health cards. Like the medical system in Australia, for example, health cards for the poor. And interestingly, as I heard, I think yesterday, the conference music from Ertuğrul. So Turkish soap operas are super famous in Pakistan, and mainly because Imran Khan liked them and wanted them to be shown in Pakistan. So, in this paper, I wanted to also finally gradually move towards the theme of authoritarianism, because in the literature on populism, there's been a lot of discussion with empirical also evidence in studies that have argued that populist leaders gradually become authoritarian. So in this case, by comparing the two and giving some examples, I want to show whether they have become authoritarian, or whether Imran Khan has become authoritarian, or whether Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was authoritarian. So in terms of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, even before he became really the first populist leader of Pakistan, he had shown these authoritarian tendencies. So he had refused to accept Mujibur Rahman's win in the 1970 elections. although the Mujibur Rahman had won the majority in East Pakistan, which is today's Bangladesh, and Bhutto, belonging to with a feudal background, could not really accept that defeat, and many scholars have argued that that became the first sort of a real trigger in terms of the insurgency in East Pakistan and Pakistan's disintegration. And then gradually, when he was the prime minister in the 70s, he basically abandoned the poor class and sided with the feudals in many of the policies and reforms. Another often the example is cited in terms of his authoritarianism is that he in fact even gave permission to torture the Secretary General of his own party, the Pakistan People's Party back then. In terms of Imran Khan, there are some indications, and which is not new because the crackdown on the civil society, mainly on the NGOs, started during the previous government of Nawaz Sharif, and mainly after the Osama bin Laden operation in Pakistan, in which Save the Children was Pakistani authorities believe that Save the Children was implicated. So then the crackdown on the NGOs started. But during the Imran Khan's government, I think the big sort of crackdown on the civil society can be seen in terms of restrictions on the Pashtun Tahaffuz movement, which is a civil society movement demanding for the rights of Pashtuns who suffered because of the war on terror in the tribal areas. Its members have been in and out of prison on many occasions. There have been now an increasing number of media restrictions, and at an unprecedented level also new sort of authorities created to control the media. Imran Khan has openly talked about the fact that we need to control the Pakistani media, which is too free. And one of the chiefs of the biggest media groups in Pakistan has been under arrest on corruption charges by the National Accountability Bureau. So the government is, of course, blamed for using this authority to punish some of the media houses. There have been allegations in terms of the government being trying to control the judiciary and influencing judiciary in some ways, and blaming it for letting the previous Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif leave the country for medical treatment in London, for example. So while in conclusion, and of course, I might have left many of the unanswered questions, and I'll wait for your questions in the Q&A session, and we'll be happy to answer. So in conclusion, I wanted to say that while Bhutto used anti-Americanism to also counter domestic opposition to his government's alleged fraud in the 1977 election, Khan has blamed the previous governments for embarrassing Pakistan by partnering with the US in the war on terror, due to which Pakistan has faced massive economic loss and also the loss of nearly 60,000 lives. And Imran Khan has been using all this to blame the previous governments that sided with the US. And Khan has also been against the US drone strikes. This anti-Americanism of Bhutto and Khan was similar and linked to the masses' grievances against the US as well, because we are talking about post-1971 Pakistan, when the masses were really unhappy with the US not supporting Pakistan in the war with India, and the same post-9/11 sort of context in which there was sudden increase in anti-Western sentiments in Pakistan, increased by we're talking about hundreds of drone strikes in Pakistan's tribal areas. So in those sort of contexts, of course, anti-Americanism could be sold. And another element is how the two leaders used anti-India sentiments in their favor. And as I talked about earlier as well that anti-India rhetoric has always been sort of, like a key aspect of winning elections in Pakistan. Many parties have used it. So this is not just the case of these two populist leaders. And the key other similarities has been seen in terms of how they have smartly used the religion or Islam for their popularity at home and also abroad. And finally, I wanted to say in terms of Pakistan's political system, that all parties, whether secular or Islamists, they use Islam. So it's not necessarily the case that it's only, the Jamaate Islami that talks about Islam and Sharia and so on. In Pakistan, almost all parties, either one way or the other, they talk about implementing the Islamic system or creating, promoting Islamic socialism or true Islamic welfare state and so on. So I'll end here, and I thank everyone for listening to me.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. I have some Pakistani colleagues who are commenting to me, and I might share some of their comments with you after our session that are interesting. Let's, Dr. Ahmed, begin with you with our question and answer session. One of our questions is, what's the role of foreign influence, particularly the US, in orienting, shaping Pakistan's domestic politics and its civil military relations? Can we truly understand Pakistan's domestic scene without viewing the foreign influence on it?
In terms of the external influences, it's not just the US, it's, we can say there have been multiple influences. Of course, it started off with as Pakistan was created with this inherent security dilemma vis-a-vis India, Pakistan always looked for two things. One, aid or financial benefits to build up its military capabilities to counter that threat. So that moved Pakistan closer to the US, and it gave the US regular opportunities to also intervene in Pakistan's domestic affairs. There is a long history, and many scholars have written about how the US has preferred to deal with the dictators in Pakistan and not the democratically elected leaderships. And with the and makes sense as well when you talk to a democratically elected leader and ask him to support us in the war on terror, he would say that I go to the parliament and take their decision. But if you have a military dictator, he can quickly make a decision. And this happened during the 1980s when General Zia-ul-Haq agreed to join the proxy war in Afghanistan. It happened in the post 9/11 context. We saw General Musharraf was threatened by the Bush administration. For example, I think the popular saying was that we will throw you back into the Stone Age or something. That was the kind of language used. So he also had to agree. But at the same time, these military dictators also look for some legitimacy at the international level. And the US, being the superpower, often provided them with this legitimacy. So I think the dynamics have been different during times when Pakistan was ruled by the military dictators, and also when Pakistan was ruled by the democratically elected leadership. But the US influence has been there.
Yeah, how do you see Imran Khan resisting foreign influence, and how does Turkey play into that role? He seems to be pushing back against the West, not wanting financial handouts, wanting financial independence, but it seems that Turkey is being viewed friendly and not just through the Turkish television series.
I think Turkish case is interesting. There is very less studied about Turkey's increasing soft power influence on Pakistan. Of course, in Pakistan, there's a long history of looking towards the caliphate, and they look at Turkey through that lens still. If you talk about the First World War, and after that scenario, the Caliphate movement or the Khilafat movement in Pakistan, in the Indian subcontinent, was very big, demanding the British to save the Caliphate, and those tendencies have existed ever since. But when we talk about Turkish influence in terms of Pakistan's foreign policy, I don't think so. That's very significant. We can say that it's more in the case of maybe Pakistan now drifting away from Saudi Arabia or Gulf countries, we can say, moving into the smaller sort of bloc with Malaysia and Turkey and Pakistan, because they all have their frustrations with the Saudi-led, for example, Organization of Islamic Cooperation, for example. And those dynamics are different. Imran Khan still went back to the IMF. IMF again issued funds for Pakistan, new loans. And to repay Saudi Arabia, Pakistan has gone twice to Beijing, because Saudi Arabia has been demanding the repayment of the loans, because the relationships have hit another low. This is unprecedented kind of a low in Pakistan's relationship with Saudi Arabia. And Pakistan has been taking loans from China to repay to Saudi Arabia, which is very interesting. And at the same time, Saudi Arabia has moved on to show another sign of their displeasure with Pakistan by inviting the India's army chief on a state visit, which is another recent development. Of course, the Pakistani policymakers will be sort of reassessing and trying to troubleshoot. They always manage to do the troubleshooting very well. So let us see what they do on this time around. But I think President Erdogan has his own sort of charismatic influence in Pakistan, we can say, but I won't say it's his influence on Pakistan's foreign policy is much visible at this stage.
Okay, thank you. Last question for you, Dr. Ahmed. Do you, in your opinion, believe the rise of religious populism in Pakistan is the rise of religious populism state-sponsored?
That's interesting, because since long, many have talked about how the state has tolerated many of the religious groups, many of the extreme right religious groups. In the recent elections, the fourth biggest party in terms of the votes, they did not win any seat, but in terms of the votes, was a right-wing, extreme kind of religious party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Labbaik. Its leader recently passed away, I think last month. And there are many with former sort of extremist affiliations who are coming into the mainstream politics as well. There are blames on the military, for example, for making them survive for this long in the country. But when it comes to the role of Islam or in politics, as I said in my concluding remarks, Pakistan's political divide is not as clear as in the West, that there are parties on the left, in the middle, on the right, because they all sort of jump over everywhere all the time. So Imran Khan, you can say that certain features of his politics are left-oriented, but then he's like completely on the right side with many of the other policies where, he talks about, like he uses religion, he talks about how there should be a model state based on the model of the Riyasat-e-Madina, for example, and so on. And as I said in my conclusion, that there is no party that has some kind of a monopoly over the use of Islam or religion in politics, because everyone uses it. And another example I published in one of my papers as well, in terms of the anti-secular narrative in Pakistan. All parties, whether secular or non-secular, they all have anti-secular narratives because they have very different understandings of what is secularism. So it's very different, very complex kind of a political system that we have in Pakistan.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Staying in the region, Mr. Islam, are you available to answer some questions about Bangladesh? unmute him. And I also have some questions for Dr. Önder about the future of Turkey.
I'm here.
Okay, Dr. Önder, we have a question about the different factions and breakups within the AK Party, specifically Ahmed Davutoğlu and Ali Babacan. Do you see this as a healthy or unhealthy phenomena?
To be honest, for political parties, I'm not trying to get in that current issue, because mostly my specialty is like restructuring and reforms. So I don't want to do comments on it, but of course, for democracy, welcome, different voices, more voices, different ideas, welcome. So of course, we expect that it will contribute to our democracy.
Agreed. I lived in Fatih when President Erdogan was reelected, and I always feel the more people involved, the better, and it makes the winner's party more fun. So going on the street with the fireworks and all of the people, the more parties, the more opposition, that just makes the winner's party more fun. So yeah, that's fine. In terms of Turkey's long-term role in the world, how do you see the role of Turkey in the Muslim world in the next 20 years?
I think, since, it's not like nationalist view, but Turkey is, I think, doing recent years is doing a lot better than before. Maybe because of a legacy of Ottoman Empire, or just because of Erdogan's power, is doing that culturally, politically, in terms of administration. We are doing a lot and performing a lot better than like 20 years ago. And if you see Turkey using like soft power, like bringing many students, by providing scholarships, like I think YTB right now is like sponsoring like 15,000 students from all over the world, from Africa, Asia, and they will have cultural boundaries between Muslim nations. I think the other thing, Turkey has some other, like CIGA, they are trying to restore other social technical things and movies. I don't want to get in that, but recently, yeah, there are some movies it has influenced. I did one research in Jordan with like 3,000 people over there. Yes, it has huge impact when we look at Turkish movies, but these are recent years, like last 10 years. In the future, if Turkey, as you see, it has international relations, it's become really regional power. It was too late for Turkey to be in that level if you go back to history, and Russia, Ottoman, German, Europe, and British, and Turkey. Ottoman was there. Turkey was very late to come back for revival. I think it will have more influence. Thank you.
Got it. And Dr. Önder, as you are here, I'll give every speaker 2 minutes to make a contribution or final comment if there's something you wanted to include but didn't have time in your presentation. If you want to take 2 minutes now to make any final comments.
Start with me?
Yes.
Okay.
Or if why not?
As we say, as I mentioned in my paper, democratic governance is the important thing that we are trying to promote in Turkey, and United Nations, they're trying to promote all over the world. But unfortunately, in some Islamic countries, Muslim countries, like in Africa, let's say Somalia, some countries may not have required infrastructure, minimum infrastructure for organizations. We are pushing them for governance. Sometimes we are pushing for participation, but they do not have low level quality of administrative structure, so it might not work by pushing them directly with governance. It might work with a little more developed countries like Turkey, but Western countries have some mistakes pushing some countries without establishing minimum organizational bureaucratic structures in the country. But in Turkey, politically and in terms of politics and in political process, in administrative process, we really did a good job in promoting governance in Turkey. But you know, it's culture, bureaucratic culture, organizational culture, and national culture that has influence to all of them. Of course, takes time. It gets some resistance. People do not want to change their power status in short period of time. We still gonna have some road to go, but I hope we will gonna have manage to that level. That's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Mr. Metin Uzun, are you available? 2 minutes. Any final comments that you would like to make? Let's unmute your microphone.
Actually, I talk for the same paper, but if you Metin wanna add, that's okay.
Yeah, I want to contribute something about the governance reform. Governance is a paradigmatic transform of public administration system, and the government gained more comprehensive outlook, built more democratic. Murat mentioned that, became respectful for human rights, and had multi-participant mechanism, management mechanism with governance reforms. Turkey has shaped several reforms efforts since the 1980s. The reforms integration with the global world, technological developments were positive effects on the reform process in Turkey. As in 2000s, reform process includes more information and communication technology based participation mechanism and openness principle. And Turkish reforms, there are still shortcomings in many areas. However, there are valuable lessons in Turkey reforms, our reforms governance adventure. Islam countries can perform their their governance reform by analyzing the strengths and weakness of Turkish reform process, because the governance reforms in the Islamic countries will increase the dialogue between Muslim compatibility, the teaching of Islam. And thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your contribution. And Dr. Zahid Ahmed, we have a question about Bangladesh in the region. If Mr. Islam isn't able to join us, oh, he's on. I'll let both of you answer this. Thank you. Mr. Islam, I'd like you to answer this question, and Dr. Ahmed, if he has an opinion as well. I think it's an important question regarding the crackdown on the BJI political party. How is this affecting the new generation? Is it radicalizing youth, this crackdown? Is it making them more distant from politics? Or long time, do you see that it will mobilize and make the youth more politically involved?
Okay, thank you. It's a really nice question. Again, the thing is actually when we are as scholarly or argued about any kind of political Islamic party, this is really interesting. We are facing this thing like the radicalism or like after crackdown, or whether the young member or young follower of that particular parties are going to be radicalized. The simple answer is no, actually. Whatever is the definition of radicalism in according to the Western standard of radicalism, this is really, I mean, like totally different. What happened? Of course, there is some kind of crisis. There are a lot of things happen, as I already discussed in our paper. Like one day, just the one leader of this party, BGI, his name is the Owais Society, called a spiritual leader. One day when the court has passed a law again, I mean, for the whole time he will be in a prison. Then one day there was a protest, and 170 people actually killed in a street by the police and administration. Bangladesh. So this is the actually, this is the actual reality. That's what we can actually convert to two things. That's okay. The 170 people died in a street. They protest against the government and administration. So we can argue, okay, so it can be a radicalism, like the people came to the street, and also we can say that this is the normal protest in a political, a culture. So this is actually the reality. I don't think the young followers, they are not actually going to be radicalized. But yeah, there are some problem. There are the peoples are going to be, much more fundamentalist what they are think, because they are not, they don't have any kind of opportunity to exercise their freedom of thoughts, freedom of movement, freedom of protest. I mean, as what we know about this constitutional rights from any of the countries, or especially even also from Bangladesh. So automatically young followers, they are thinking some thoughts, whatever, if they are followers from BGI or follower from BNP, the Nationalist Party, or also other Islamic party, they have some fundamentalist thoughts is increasing, and also like some extremist things, but not like what we are habituated with in Western standard of academia extremism. It's like in a general political thoughts of extremism, we can say. These kind of things are really increasing in Bangladesh because of young members. They don't have rights to protest in a street. They cannot talk. They cannot do, even also they cannot do anything like what is going on, what can be actually against government. So I can say actually that's the radicalism, or like those kind of extremism.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, all of our panelists. We're short on time. There's lots of information to share, and I appreciate all of your efforts to be as brief as possible. It's not difficult, and we look forward to your papers and your presentations. We will share them through our website and with people that request, and we want to continue these conversations in the future. Our next session for CIGA's UMA conference this year will be in a little less than 2 hours at 7 p.m. Turkey time. And the topic tonight will be exercising political authority. And the rector of our university, Dr. Balut, will be participating in this. He's very accomplished in research and presentations. I highly encourage you all to attend if you are able to. On behalf of our director, Dr. Sami Al-Aryan, thank you everybody for joining us. Please continue to join us for the remaining sessions tonight, this week, and send your questions. And please do also share the videos widely, which are recorded with your colleagues and friends. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.